Hello everyone and welcome to Serious Sunday. My name is Luke, and this is the show where I talk about video games and things. This week, we finally received the inevitable announcement from Nintendo that there will indeed be a SNES Classic release this year, to the surprise of absolutely nobody, and gave us our slightly more exciting lineup to ponder over while we all wait for the end of September, when we may or may not be able to get our hands on one. There have already been a few improvements announced in conjunction with the release date of the SNES Classic that do speak to Nintendo listening at least a little bit to its consumers. The SNES Classic will ship with 2 controllers out of the box, which is already a step in the right direction in my mind, considering the NES Classic shipped with only 1, while peddling a peripheral that, though designed primarily for itself, also was compatible with the Wii and Wii U for virtual console games, making them also a valuable item for those who couldn't get the NES Classic but wanted that old too small for adult hands feel. If you did want a second controller for those 5 or 6 games on the NES Classic that did offer 2-player, with the issues with supply being what they were, making these customers that wanted to get both have to search to find another peripheral to complete the set seemed a little bit of an ill-thought-out move. The controller cables are also, mercifully on the SNES, apparently a little bit longer, as the NES Classic's controllers measured in at a very restrictive just over 2.5 feet, a mere third of the length of the original NES controllers, 7.6. The current report is that the SNES Classics will be 2 feet longer than the NES Classics, which is still short, but better. By the time we get to the Nintendo 64 Classic, we might have some normal cable lengths. The lineup is a strong showing of classics. We have a passable showing in third party from the big names, with Final Fantasy III, which is actually 4, and Secret of Mana from Square Enix, Street Fighter II, Mega Man X and Super Ghouls and Ghosts from Capcom, and Castlevania 4 and Contra 3 from Konami. But the lineup is of course Nintendo heavy, as one might expect, with Mario World, Kart RPG, Yoshi's Island and Donkey Kong Country, Zelda, 2 Kirby games, F-Zero, Punch-Out, and the genre-defining Super Metroid, as well as the well-regarded Earthbound. Also by Nintendo, they're including Star Fox, and more excitingly, its sequel, Star Fox 2, which has never been released to the public before, apparently. So that's a strong value add right there. They're experimenting with gamifying a bit as well, as apparently the consumer will need to play through Corneria and Star Fox 1 before Star Fox 2 will become available. I'm sure this is some sort of a test to see whether it performs well for whatever it is they're cooking up next. The lineup is pretty iconic, and even if a buyer might not be interested in all of them, there's at least a little bit in there for everyone. Overall, I'm liking what I'm seeing, and though I tend to be pretty down on Nintendo in general, I'm willing to say that they're continuing to move in the right direction. Time will only tell, however, on how badly they messed things up this time after the shit show that was their handling of the NES Classic a year ago. If you thought this was going to be all sunshine and rainbows about Nintendo today, you don't know me very well. For those of you with short memories or who weren't paying attention, the NES Classic was a roaring success, selling out all 1.5 million units in their production run quickly to the point that a number of consumers with interest in the mini console were never given the opportunity to purchase one. I spoke at length about the idiocy of it all, but instead of making an additional run of NES Classics, however, Nintendo decided only a few months later to instead discontinue the Classic, meaning many would be guaranteed never to have one. There were rumors floating around that because Nintendo needed the factories to be pumping out the upcoming Switch, they limited the Classic's run to 1.5 million and then killed the product off, but hearsay is hearsay, and even then I would have preferred to see more NES Classics, or at least Switches that shipped without dead pixels on the screen, especially if they were going to get in the way of the production of an obviously well-performing and well-received product. It could also have been something as simple as profit margin, but as unpopular as it would have been received, they probably still could have released a further run at a price that actually made it worth it for them to continue pumping them out until the demand was still lively. They're promising significantly more SNES Classics on shelves, but what that means is certainly as yet unknown, and I don't think Nintendo understands the concept of market research after the NES Classic, so I'm thinking double maybe? As posited in a great article by GamesIndustry.biz a couple of months ago, Nintendo certainly seems to treat its product lines in the same way that a bulk toy company does, which is supported by their own frequent insistence that they are not a game company, but a toy company. They always underdeliver on inventory, which in turn creates buzz, while keeping their own margins down, then switching their product lines to make however many million of the next thing they plan on selling. Meanwhile, they sell out and can pat themselves on the backs for making very reliable profits, even if that behavior feeds scalpers and burns out more and more consumers. It's been a pretty constant theme since back in the days of the Nintendo 64, at least to my memory, possibly earlier, though I was too young around the time the original SNES came out to know how hard or easy it would have been to get one. But scarcity certainly seems to be the name of the game with them, understandable in cases perhaps like with the Nintendo DS, which was a grand slam that managed to grab throngs of consumers from outside the usual gamer space, but the NES Classic should have been a no-brainer. But all of this is little more than the grumpy rantings of a curmudgeonly older gamer that has become a little jaded with the company that he used to like. None of the negativity above diminishes my interest or excitement about the SNES Classic. I do sincerely hope that it makes it into the hands of the consumers that want them and introduces a suite of great games to a new generation of gamers. My biggest hope, though, is that we might see a dedicated virtual console box one of these days, a sort of completely above-board RetroPie that will allow us to emulate all of those old games legitimately, with profits, be it cents at a time, going to the rightful IP holders, on working hardware as our own SNESs turn yellow and slowly the hardware stops working one console at a time. I suppose we can get that with the Wii, and to a certain extent I did shop the Virtual Console shop for a while, but whatever the form it takes, at the end of the day, I do consider it a good thing that they're finding various venues to make those old games available. If Nintendo can provide a decent supply to make the inevitably high demand, and continue to listen to customer feedback on which corners not to cut, like cable length, we might just have something really nice on our hands. And that's all that I have to say on the topic for this very moment. I hope that you enjoyed this episode of Serious Sunday, and I do hope that you enjoy the rest of your Sunday, serious or not, or whenever it is that you happen to be watching this video. Have a good one, and take care.